Welcome to Have You Read Any Good Books? I'm Mavis Applewater, and this is Author Chat. Feel free to hit like and subscribe. This week we have award-winning author and editor Andi Marquette. Andi has edited some very spicy anthologies, along with her own work, If Looks Could Kill, State of Denial, The Ties That Bind, and of course her twice-told tales. Andi is perhaps best known for her popular blog site, Women and Words. And now, the amazing Andi Marquette. There we go. Andi, very busy lady.
Good. Something.
Yeah, it's actually the first one of 2024 I'm doing.
Oh,
You're the first.
oh my God. I am honored. I am so honored.
It's not often I can tell a woman she's the first at something.
All right, I'm not
all right, gotcha. I know, I appreciate you doing this. I know you're extremely busy.
Real life busy.
Real life busy. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot. Well, first I have to say, I do a little research beforehand, and I did not know you had a doctorate in history.
I do.
You overachiever.
I've done a few things here and there. Yes, yeah.
And we don't need the, but yeah, you have a very well versed background.
Eclectic.
We'll go with eclectic.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
you do, and it's very impressive. But you spent a lot of years as an editor as well.
Let's see. I started in editing. Well, my mom was an English teacher, so I come by it naturally, right? So I was always kind of like
6 years old, walking around with a red pencil.
Typos, grammar, spelling. It was, I don't know, I enjoyed it. And I didn't really start training in publishing editing until probably when I started my PhD. And that was when I got into a historical journal, and I just worked my way up. Back then, you were like low on the totem pole, and you just worked your way up and acquired skills via mentoring and just doing the job. So I worked at a historical journal and an academic publishing house, and worked my way up from like assistant editor to managing editor at both places. And I stayed in academic publishing for a while after I finished my PhD. And then I went into teaching for a while.
Wow.
History and anthropology, because my master's is in anthropology and so is my bachelor's.
Oh, okay. Yes, like I said, you're very, yeah.
Eclectic, right?
Right.
And then I went into, became a research analyst for a while, and then stopped doing that. And now I'm doing kind of adjacent work to that. But we were working on, I and a few friends of mine were, we were doing like a little publishing house for a while, but COVID, the pandemic pretty much squashed. It just
was that Dirt Road?
Yeah.
Okay.
It just, how do I even phrase this? It changed a lot of priorities for a lot of people.
Right.
Okay. I mean, there is nobody on this planet who has not been touched in some way by the pandemic. So I ended up moving, and I am now kind of helping out some elderly relatives. So that took precedence over everything else during the pandemic, because I wanted to keep them safe. And I was the one who, started kind of going out when we had to get things. And the first, I don't know if anybody even remembers, people have just like blocked it out, but the first like year of the pandemic before the vaccine was really hard. It was really, really hard. And as a result of my move and a result of the pandemic and focusing inward on keeping everybody safe, all of us in Dirt Road pretty much realized that we were just not able to do the writing that we needed to do. And
Right.
I don't even, most of us kind of backburnered writing during that time. I am just now finally starting to get back into fiction writing,
Yes.
but it was really hard. It was a very difficult time, and it's still a difficult time. Let's not kid
Yeah.
ourselves. We're still in it. It's hard.
And I think you made a good point. I think a lot of people we've blocked out that year.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Um, I asked around Mavis, actually. I like posted on Facebook, well, like during it was 2022, 2023 or something, and I asked if people were incorporating the pandemic in any way into their writing,
Right.
and like everybody said no,
Most people are not. Yeah. This
even
just
fiction.
did not happen. Yeah, no. And it was an
It,
interesting start. I mean, the conferences, the lit conferences is how I met you. And you were a great DJ. I loved it.
yeah, I did that too.
Yeah.
So, radio and music, yes.
Yeah. And yeah, I mean, and everyone was like, well, we still had to wear masks. And is anyone incorporating this? And everyone was like, no, 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 no.
See,
Yeah.
it's kind of like during the 1918 world flu epidemic,
Right.
pandemic, and if you look at the writings from that period and the fiction writings, like nobody really incorporated it.
Right.
It was like this collective horror and denial, and I'm not sure it's good not to. Um, Part of my, like, I backburnered writing too because as a writer, I try to kind of process what's going on around me, and I just could not process. I
Yeah.
could not process the pandemic. I just could not. So I didn't write anything contemporary. I'm currently working on a little novella that takes place in the 80s because
Nice.
I can't. So I understand where everybody is with that, but I can't even really write contemporary because I'm going to have to bring in the pandemic, and I'm not sure I'm ready. I'm
Yeah.
ready to do that yet.
No, I've been working on a series, and actually, I do mention I don't in that one I don't pretend it didn't happen. I've got one novella running on Vela because I thought I'd give it a
Mm-hmm.
try, and I just said, okay, I started this a while ago, so we're just going to keep this like pre-pandemic shit or stuff.
Yeah,
What's your
that's kind of
problem?
how I'm working it out, and it is kind of fun. You know, I grew up during the 80s, so it is kind of fun to. This is kind of a nostalgia piece for me, high school kids during the 80s. So it's just like, okay, this is making me feel good, but I can't really. I'm just not. I guess I'm just not ready yet
You
to.
were in high school in the 80s. That's adorable.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I've earned the ma'am. I'm gonna take it.
So that's, yeah, that
Yeah.
anyway, the pandemic just took the wind out of a lot of sails.
It did. It really did. I've talked to a lot of writers who were like, I'm not working on anything. I haven't since the pandemic.
And you guys, for those of you who are out there and feeling guilty about that,
Yeah.
don't. Collectively, I don't think anybody has really processed the grief and the trauma. And for those folks who did not lose anybody close to you, um, good, but you are still dealing with grief and trauma.
Right.
And I lost a couple friends from high school actually to COVID.
Oh.
And one of our writers at Dirt Road Books lost her mom to COVID the
Oh.
first year. So, like our writers too, were really struggling. And we lost a couple of close family friends to COVID. And I still don't think as a country that we've really effectively dealt with that and
No, I
processed
don't think we have.
all the horrible things that happened, because it wasn't just the pandemic. There was so
Yeah.
much other horrible things going on.
Okay, so I keep looking ways because I have notes.
Right on.
And I did drop them during one interview because I had so many notes on this author, Renee Bess. I had like a stack. And it's like to avoid that, I've got them safely over here. Uh
Nice.
yeah. Well, I like to do my research, like I said, and your anthologies. I freaking love those. All you can eat buffet. I remember you in an apron handing out.
Right? We had great aprons. That was one of our our marketing things was we made up a few aprons and then we wore them and we were like talking about the anthologies. I can't remember which GCLS that was, Mavis.
I don't remember.
Yeah, might have been Portland or no.
Oh,
Anyway,
Portland was a good one.
regardless.
Yeah. I don't
Those
remember.
anthologies, I did those with my co-writer, RG Emmanuel, and who is also an editor and writer.
And a writer,
And
yes.
she is also a trained chef. So I consider myself the sous chef on both those anthologies. because RG was like, okay, you're in the driver's seat on these. And what we wanted to do was put together anthologies that deal with food, romance, sexy times. And we also included recipes.
Yes.
And some of the recipes are actual recipes, like our authors provided actual recipes, and others are just kind of goofy, fun recipes, like, how to get the best romance, put two lesbians in stir, like that,
And stir, yes.
But there are some actual really good recipes in there.
There are, yes.
That authors supplied. So those were a blast to put together and to work with, because it's happy. Food is happy, right?
Right, I mean, it is.
Everybody likes food, or everybody has favorite foods that they like. So the authors were delightful and delighted, and we just had a really good time working with, I think we had like 10 to 12 different authors.
There was a lot, yeah. And
in each anthology, and they were just great. That was probably the easiest and most fun time I've had on an anthology, was doing the all you can eat.
It was awesome. And it was a Lambda finalist.
Yes, it was a Lambda finalist. One of them, the second, well, all you can eat was a Lambda finalist, and we went to the Lammies. Actually, we like got all dressed up and swanky. Pre-pandemic, remember those days?
Yeah, I remember those.
We lost out to somebody else, but it was just neat to be nominated and to make the finalists.
Right.
So, yeah.
And your other books include From the Hat Down. It's also From the Boots Up, if I'm remembering correctly.
From the Boots Up is the first novella. That's the first one to read in my little diptych. And then I did a follow-up, From the Hat Down. Those are both self-published.
Okay.
But they are available as on audiobook.
Awesome. I did not know that.
You can find those on Amazon. From the Boots Up is only available as an ebook because it's short. It's a novella, and it wasn't really cost effective for me at the time to put it into print. So now I'm debating just combining the two and making a big ass book.
Yeah.
So it would be a pretty big book. So I'm going back and forth on it, but right now that's where you can find those. And those stories are actually really, really close to my heart because I grew up in the Rocky Mountain West.
Okay.
And I spent time in the places that I describe in these books. So I know the landscape, I know the terrain. For those who read my work, they know that landscape and setting is a really important part of my books. Like, I want people to feel that it's another character, that the people who are in here are actually shaped by the landscapes that they interact with. And I wanted that to kind of come across, and I think it did. But also, From the Boots Up and I have been, we've been working together now for a very long time. That first came out as a long short story and a now defunct press. It was part of an anthology. And then I got the rights back, and I thought it didn't get the play that I had hoped. Like, that was Torquay Press back in the day.
Oh, wow.
Texas. And so I really wanted that story to reach a wider audience because I just felt like a lot of people would resonate with people. So I rewrote it and I lengthened it. I doubled it in size, but it remained a novella because that's pretty much how it just is. And a lot of people understand, like, why isn't this longer? Well, some stories are long, some are not. This was not one of those. It just would not have worked. I would not have been able to do a follow-up if
there would have just been a lot of stuff in there that you would have gone.
A lot of unnecessary stuff. I think it told the story it needed to tell.
Mm-hmm.
And I then released it I released it on a couple of platforms digitally, and it took off. It really did at that point find an audience, and I couldn't have been happier. Then I started working on the follow-up, which takes place years later. And
Hmm.
it's the second time around romance for those not in the know. And that book was a beast to try to write. I just struggled and struggled with that one. And then finally it fell into place. And I will tell you right now, none of the publishing houses I approached wanted it.
Oh,
So I self-published that one and that one took off. So, there's no
there you
accounting for taste, right?
go.
You know, I mean,
Yeah, really. I mean, yeah, sometimes I look back and I'm surprised what took off and what didn't. It's like,
yeah,
oh, really? Hmm.
yeah. I mean, no, I'm not trying to cast aspersions on the publishing houses. I mean, they've got their own thing going on.
You
It's
can
just
only
that,
do X number of books and
right, it just wasn't quite a fit with anybody's current list. And I get it. I totally get it. So I was like,
Mhm.
okay, I'll just put it out myself. So I got a friend of mine who is a graphic designer and worked with me at the academic publishing house where I worked for many years. And I hired her to do the cover on Hat Down. And I thought it came out great. I mean, I just really love that cover. And then at conferences, I was doing like I had bookmarks designed, and I had like these little tiny cowboy hats that I was handing out for
Oh,
people.
I must have missed
so,
that one. I got
so
the snacks when you were handing out the pastries. I got
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. We did that too, and we just did a lot of different things for just fun stuff for marketing and PR. I'm not a huge fan. What writer is right
right.
of promoting them of myself, but I like to do fun stuff that dovetails with the stories
Hmm.
because then people remember, oh, that was the one with the little tiny cowboy hat,
Right.
that was the
Exactly.
one with the cool postcard or whatever the hell. So
Yeah,
yeah.
and yeah, it's just and a warning to authors, don't overdo your swag. I've seen them come in with the bucks, all
Oh yeah,
it's like less is more sometimes.
less is more.
Mm,
I agree with that, and I always try to find something unique
right,
about the stories that I could promote and make it something you could carry. Because think about this, authors, when people are going to a conference, they may be flying in and they don't have a lot of room.
right.
So make it something like, bookmarks are always good for people who read print,
Yeah.
always good. Um, chapstick, always good. Like at conferences.
Nothing sharp.
I
They
did
have to.
matchbooks. I did
Uh,
matchbooks one year,
oh, yeah. I think I remember that
you
because
know,
I was still smoking then.
but you can use matches for anything like candles,
Mm-hmm.
cigarettes, whatever.
There.
And they're easy to carry and easy to put in your pocket and carry around. So just that's something to think about if you're going to a conference, like your swag, make it something that readers can carry
Yeah.
and not fill up their suitcases because they're also
Yeah.
buying books, you
Because
know.
it's easy to get carried away with that stuff. It's like, oh, the books,
Oh
the
yeah. Oh
pens,
my God,
the
this would be so cool. Yeah, totally.
yeah,
Totally.
yeah. And if it's sharp, they're going through security. Don't do that. I've
Don't do
seen
that. Don't do
I've
that.
seen the little. It's like no, no, no,
Yeah,
no.
yeah. Don't do that. Pens, always good.
Pens are great.
Everybody has pens laying around their houses. Yeah, those are great.
I
Um,
did frisbees one year.
I remember those. Those were cool.
Yeah, because they wouldn't shatter if a dog
Mhm,
bit it.
mhm.
But it
Easy to
was
stuff in your suitcase too.
yeah, and the frisbee was good because the book was Tempest Time Flies, translated into Time
Yes, it
Flies.
was so good. I was like, I think RG was there that year too, and I was like, man, look at what Mavis did. This is really cool.
Maybe it's put a little thought sometimes, once in a while.
It was neat. Yeah.
Yeah. So the hat down, boots up, and I know you haven't seen it yet, but prior to the whole YouTube video, there'll be a little intro that's going to show your covers.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I don't know, with
Fancy. Thanks,
music
Mavis.
and everything. I know, right?
Woo.
Woohoo! Yeah, we want to make it fun. Yeah, see, I'm reading my note. Women and Words.
Yes, sadly, God, that we did that for 11 years. That was
Yeah.
me and Jove Bell, author Jove Bell.
Hmm.
Um,
Loved it.
we launched, it was called Women in Words, and we launched it, like 12 years ago now, 13 years ago, because we just wanted to have kind of a blog that talked about all kinds of LGBTQ fiction, mostly geared toward women and women identified people.
Mm-hmm.
But also we wanted it to be fun, and we didn't want any, I don't know how to not be an asshole and say this. We didn't want
Go
any
for it.
like any fights, that
Right.
any arguments developing on the site over anything, because there was so much drama in any kind of community that we just didn't want to have a lot of drama. We
Right.
wanted to have fun, and we wanted people to learn things, and we wanted to make it accessible for, anybody to contribute
Right.
any kind of thought piece. And we also came up with the idea of the Hootenanny, which was our giant ass blowout book giveaway. And that, I don't think people realize the amount of work that went into that.
That was
Oh
awesome.
my God.
And I'm sure there was a lot of work involved because
Oh
one,
Jesus.
authors are a pain in the ass. And I know I was one of your pains
Oh.
in the asses. It was like, oh yeah, sure. Oh, I got to send you crap. Okay.
No, well, we figured it out. We just had, the readers go directly to the author.
Yeah.
Yeah, we didn't have we were just the middle people. We didn't have any like warehouses on site. And
But
then publishers realized it was a great PR opportunity. And so
yes.
they were donating books to us and we would send the readers to the publisher to get a copy of the book that they had won. So it wasn't like we made absolutely no money off it. We made, because there was some question about that, Mavis, speaking of drama. Like, we were like, no, we don't actually have any of the books.
We set it up so people won absolutely free
Yeah,
copies of these books, either print or
yeah.
digital. I
Mm-hmm.
know early on I was sending print, and
Well, early on, most people did. That was what they
yeah,
did. It was print. And then
that's
when
what
digital became way more available, made it just a shit ton easier for publishers and authors. And
yeah.
that was really cool. I mean, I could not believe how generous publishers and authors were. It was just so great. And then Jove and I would do this behind the scenes thing, and nobody knew that we were doing this, but people would leave comments. That's how we did the giveaways.
Right.
That they leave comments about, and then we would tally up the comments and then, put them in a hat and do rando drawings. That's how we did the giveaways. But that time of year is tough.
Yeah.
It's tough. And there would always be a few people commenting about how they really hope to win because they had this thing going on in their life. And
Right.
I'm having a really rough time, and this would really make it great. So then Jove and I would play Mary Elf. And so we would hit up like different authors and ask, hey, would you be willing to put in an extra book for so-and-so? And so we would then do giveaways behind the scenes that nobody knew we were
doing. Yes. I actually did know about that because
I did, because you were one of the authors I hit up. Hey, Mavis, can you help this author out? They're having a really rough time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, sure, it's the holidays. Yeah, absolutely.
And most people, well, everybody did that we hit up
Yeah.
to do the extra Mary Elf giveaway would do that. So we were doing that behind the scenes, and then we were coordinating the giveaways every night for 12 days because it was 12 days of Christmas, right? I would start taking pictures of Tucker the Merry Elf.
Yes.
Posing him everywhere, taking him everywhere, thinking up the stories. It was a huge amount of work.
Look forward to it every year. And
everybody did. And like I said, it just got to be too much because I had stuff going on at home. Joe had stuff going on at home. And we were like, traffic was kind of dropping.
Yeah.
And it was like, maybe we hit the high point, and now other things are replacing it, and that's great. That's fine. That's how it should be. Something else comes along, and we just hope it keeps the community going in other ways. So, yeah.
The blog site itself was just amazing. I went looking for it because actually I had a blog that I was trying to find because I was interviewing someone else, Renee Bass again.
Yes.
And,
Renee is a good person, man.
Yeah. So I was looking for it. Yeah. Oh, she's awesome. And
and a
like,
great writer too.
yeah.
Fabulous writer. Oh my God, I loved her stories.
Well, she's working on something new. She was talking about it. I'm like,
Yes,
finish it. I want to read that now. It sounds so amazing. But it's, that's Renee. It's like,
it is
okay.
Renee. She's very
Yeah.
low key about things.
Okay. Yeah. Love that one. But Women in Words gave a lot of people a chance to blog. And
Mhm.
and that's just a nice, some of them were very thought provoking.
Yeah,
And
and we
like
wanted that, but we had one other rule: we did not accept reviews, book
right,
reviews. There were plenty of sites out there doing that for sapphic fiction
right.
and LGBTQ fiction. We just didn't feel that there was. I mean, there were just everybody else was doing it. We didn't need to fill that, and also we thought it might create drama
And of course it'll
because
create drama.
people are they're very I get
Yeah.
it, I get it. So
Sandra,
that was the
yeah,
other rule: no reviews.
no reviews. And yeah, I mean that's why this is called Have You Read Any Good Books? I don't want to hear about anything you didn't like, Have you read any
Oh
good
no, I
books?
mean when I do reviews, yeah, when I do reviews, I write about things I like and enjoy because what my cup of tea is not going to be somebody else's cup of tea, but that
Right?
doesn't mean it wasn't a good book. It just means it's
Absolutely.
not my thing. Glad you enjoyed that.
And Twice Told Tales, love that. One of my favorites, which it came out of the Hootenanny. It's like, well, you said, well, do you want a copy? And it took forever because I'm like technically an idiot. Was
Technologically.
Yeah, I'm challenged. Hey, I can make a great margarita.
Hey, that's all you need in
Yeah,
life, isn't it?
it really was for a long time. Um, but it was the Bureau of Holiday Affairs.
I I hate to say it, but I really enjoyed writing that. I
This is
mean,
such much fun. I loved it.
that for friends not for people not in the know, the Bureau of Holiday Affairs, Ylva Publishing, that's YLVA, Ylva, they're based in Germany.
Hmm.
Uh, Jay
Jay.
actually with Ylva and a lot of other really great writers. That is my version of the classic Charles Dickens A Christmas Tale, A Christmas Story. That's my version of it. So, and I'm not going to give anything away because some of the
No,
characters
but
are
it's
really
really
fun.
good. They are extremely fun
It's a
characters.
it's sort of a mashup of A Christmas Story, or not A Christmas Story, the Dickens tale,
Christmas Carol.
and yeah, Christmas Carol, and kind of like sort of a callback to the Bill Murray film Scrooged. The corporate raider type who is confronted with like, you got to get your shit together or else,
Yeah.
I can't help you. But it's also a second chance romance.
Hmm.
And the ghosts that I brought in are they really ghosts? Who knows? Because it's a bureau. It's a bureau that takes care of these things and sends out people on assignment to get people back in line with good works.
And that brings us to, and I recently got this one, The Secret of Sleepy Hollow.
That also that's my take on the classic Ichabod Crane story. And for folks who are not in the United States, Washington Irving wrote The Legend of Sleepy Hollow, which is about the headless horseman. And, there's like some other things going on underneath there. Ichabod Crane was the gangly teacher who ends up disappearing on All Hallows Eve. And it's just, there's a lot of spooky things going on. So I redid that one with a descendant of Ichabod Crane who goes back to Sleepy Hollow. And the town, as you know, Mavis has actually renamed itself Sleepy Hollow
Right.
up in New York, upstate.
Upstate New York.
And so she's working on a dissertation, something I know all too well. And so she's researching what happened to Ichabod Crane. And I'm not going to reveal anything because I think it was
Oh,
kind of a fun twist. But there's also a romance in there,
yeah. Well, romance makes the world go round. At least I hope it
and
does.
there's some ghostly elements
Well,
as
yeah.
well,
I'm
paranormal elements.
Well, see, I totally dig the paranormal
I know.
elements. Yeah. You may have noticed that.
So
Let's
yeah,
see.
those are two, and that one is also available with Ylva Publishing.
Great. Is If Looks Could Kill, Ties That Bind, and State of Denial.
Looks Could Kill is an Ylva book.
Mm-hmm.
That is kind of my version of
Love the cover
Sword.
on that.
It's like the Devil Wore Prada meets James Bond, kind of. That's sort of how I envisioned that one, and that's how it went. There, a bunch of my work is currently out of print because COVID, and I'm
Yeah.
trying to figure out what I want to do. My entire New Mexico mystery series is out of print. That's Land of
Oh,
Entrapment, State of Denial,
State of
um,
Denial. That's right.
and the Ties That Bind.
Mm.
And my Farsi Chronicles are also currently out of print. But I'm working on it. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do with those. Because I mean, it's going to require going back through, re-editing, rewriting some parts because these were done back in the day. And I'm like, do I want to do that? I just don't know. I mean, I just don't know where I'm at with those.
Yeah. But it's
But
hopefully brings us to the next part. Something that we could look forward to more
yeah,
of.
I mean, it's people, writing a book is hard work. Rewriting a book is hard work.
It's harder.
And both are they're difficult in their own ways. They're just difficult. So even if I decide to do those self-published, which is the best and easiest way to go in a lot of ways, because then I
Mm-hmm.
don't, but I still have to get the manuscripts in shape. I have to get new covers. I have to hire these things out, and I have to rewrite and go through and re-edit. And there's a lot of work involved. It's like writing another book. And
Mm-hmm.
if somebody from a publishing house said, hey, I want to put these back in print, I would probably just be like, great, do it. Because I just don't want to deal.
Have at it. I don't want to do the heavy lifting. But
Exactly.
okay, so is there something roaming around in your head that is itching to get out?
Like I said, I'm working on this. It's a cute little mystery that high school kids in the 80s. I'm working on that.
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be a major rewrite of a short story that Lori Lake actually published in one of her anthologies.
Okay.
And I am considering doing a series of novellas on ghost hunters because
Yay.
I don't have to necessarily bring in COVID,
No,
right?
you do not. No.
So that's something. I mean, I have one story. One of the first story we published with Ylva in an anthology, but I of course will redo that and lengthen it and make it worth people's while to spend $3.99 or whatever for a novella.
Yeah.
You know,
Novellas are fun though.
they're a lot of fun, and if you do a series, it's like it's just like little bites, as opposed to a big long book, and you can do all kinds of interesting things with novellas. So that's kind of why I'm thinking I'm going to be working on novellas for a little bit.
Well, and if it's a series, you could take certain leaps that you don't have to get
Right.
through. Let's
Exactly.
don't
Exactly.
don't have 3 chapters of why they ended up in New York. I would just after, meanwhile, back
Right.
at the ranch.
Exactly. So I think for me, novellas and novels are my forte. I'm not as good at short stories, I don't think, because I tend to want to tell a longer story. But I've written a lot of short stories, so it just depends.
Well, short stories I always felt have a slight familiarity with that. Want to tell more. There's always more to tell.
Mm-hmm,
And I
mm-hmm.
usually have notes on that.
Yeah, yeah. So I'm slowly getting back into the writing game, but I'm still not where I want to do something too contemporary and incorporate
Mhm.
COVID. I'm
It's a
just not
tough
ready.
call. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not ready. And maybe I will be able to write around it. I don't know. I think that's dishonest in some ways, but I get why people don't. I
Yeah.
get it. I'm not casting aspersions. It's just not where I'm at right now.
So, mystery in the 80s. That works. Like you said, that was your formative years. It's so adorable. That's just I'm a little bit older than that.
Just a little though.
Yeah. Well, see that band on the wall? I remember when they were together and making new music.
Right on. Hey, at
Ah,
least I've heard of it, right?
yeah. Well,
I
my favorite band. At least I think it's safe to say everyone heard of them.
don't
Yeah.
know, maybe I've gone
Who
to
are four
stage and
guys?
the younger folks,
Um,
and I'm just like, oh shit.
oh, you say things like, "Well, a phone book." What's a phone book?
Hmm. It's
Oh,
something that m- like older folks take totally for granted,
yeah.
like totally for, and then it's just like, wow, that's how much the world has changed during my lifetime.
I remember. We're coming up on running out of stuff, but I remember pay phones and stuff like that. And I'm trying to tell the bean about this stuff, and she just looks at me like, "You're making that up."
No, go online, look up the
Yeah,
images.
yeah. Okay, we are running out of time. I can't thank you enough for doing this, Andy. I knew you were
Sure.
busy, and I wouldn't let it go.
I know. Thank you, Mavis, for staying with me and coming after me. I appreciate it.
And when you do have something new, we'll get it out. I'm going to start
Awesome.
doing little updates for
That'd be
people.
great. Yeah,
Uh,
that would be great.
well, thank
Appreciate
you.
you.
Ah, love you. Bye.
Take care.